Hello and welcome to Masters of the Deal, the podcast where we uncover the personal stories behind billion-dollar deal makers. As the region head for Ideals VDR, I help deal makers close their transactions faster with our virtual data rooms. Over the past 2 decades, I've got to know many of them personally and professionally. So I take this opportunity to tease out how they got to the top. Join me and learn what it takes to become a master of the deal. So Anand, thank you for coming on Masters of the Deal. I'd like to introduce Anand. Anand is the managing partner at Lagrange Point Advisors. He has over 20 years of experience in M&A, advisory, corporate banking, and infrastructure, finance, and advisory. We'll get more into this. His experience includes deputy MD and partner with Singhi Advisors, and he spent a long time with ICICI Bank. Anand has executed M&A and debt resolution transactions with aggregate value over $3 billion, including M&A transactions which aggregate over $1.5 billion. So Anand, again, thank you for coming on. I'm thrilled to have you on the past podcast. This is a one of a kind as far as I know. I think this industry is filled with exceptional deal makers who've spent a lifetime bringing buyers and sellers together and creating value. But they kind of are hidden from the limelight. People don't know their stories. People don't know who they are. Well, I think the right people know who they are, but really where they come from, what makes them do what they do, all of it is a mystery. So I'm trying to demystify a little bit of that. So let's start right at the beginning. Where are you from?
Harsh, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. It's great to connect. Uh,
Likewise.
yeah, so I'm a unique guy in the sense that when I was doing my engineering, people found my native very interesting. So I'm a Marvari who was coming from Bihar at that moment of time. Now Jharkhand, but Jharkhand was part of Bihar that time. So a Bihari from a Marwadi from Bihar was a very unique combination. And a lot of people told me that this will help me. That time I didn't think it was a compliment, but now I agree with them.
So how has it helped? Why is being a Marwari from Bihar an advantage? And why? What was it back then that you didn't realize that you know today is an advantage?
Yeah, so Marwadi is of course then business acumen you're supposed to have. You see businesses being run at home, so you imbibe some of it. Even if that time I really didn't think I'll start on my own. And Bihari, because you see a lot of IAS officers are from Bihar. So they like power. They like they have a way of conducting themselves. They can be very unassuming. They can be very much themselves in meetings. Very unafraid, very bold. So I guess this combination. Now I think it was good. That time Bihar was associated with everything wrong. I mean people would make fun of Biharis. Biharis were not into businesses. They didn't know how to talk. So everything negative associated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Bihar? I believe so. The most intellectual people in India, extremely uh, crazy memory. I mean, these guys are toppers. They'll get 98, 99, sometimes 100 percentile. I think the disadvantage is in their accent. They're unable to, they understand and speak the language, but the accent is so Bihari that, you can tell that the person is from Bihar. But in terms of how smart they are, how intelligent they are, there is nothing really left. So they do occupy, if I'm correct, a lot of the civil services, have Biharis, and a lot of top institutions also have Biharis, etc. So do
Yeah,
you?
and you look at India's ancient history, Patna, Patliputra, Bihar, is where most of the ancient civilizations came from. They had the best universities, Nalanda, and even today, yeah, I mean Biharis are really sharp.
And so what was upbringing like? Were you in Bihar for your education,
Sure.
and throughout? What did you study in school? Because I saw that you did engineering and then moved to uh, doing. I believe it was masters in Ghaziabad. Uh,
Gurgaon, MDI
Gurgaon, correct?
Gurgaon. But
MDI Gurgaon.
I'm from Chakradarpur. It's a small town in now Jharkhand. So basically had in a rural middle class upbringing. Of course, originally we are from Rajasthan. Parents had migrated to Jharkhand maybe 70, 80 years back. And I was born and brought up in Chakradarpur. So studied till 10th and then have been studying outside. I did my engineering from NIT Surat. I did my MBA from MDI Gurgaon.
Hmm.
And then last 25 years I'm in Mumbai. So my professional life mostly it has been in Mumbai, except for 3 years where I was in Russia. I was in Moscow. We had acquired ICICI Bank had acquired a bank, and I was managing corporate banking operations there. So yeah, it's a sea change from a rural semi-urban background to calling Mumbai a home.
So schooling was there. Mumbai was engineering then. Was that the first time you moved from hometown to Mumbai?
So I did my schooling from Jharkhand, and after that, engineering was from Surat, Gujarat, and MBA was from Delhi, from Gurgaon, and came to Mumbai for the first time, I guess, 1998 or 2000. Yeah, I think 1998.
So, I can draw parallels because my first interview was with Mahesh Singhi. There's so many parallels, right? Mahesh was also Marvari. He also moved to Mumbai in '99. He also did engineering, but he didn't do what he did, which is do business studies and then move.
Yeah,
There is definitely something about Marwaris and being entrepreneurial, which is super interesting. I mean, you can see a pattern here. The biggest names in the country in the country are Marwais. But why engineering and then the shift? Was that always in the cards, or is that something that kind of grew into because your friends were doing it? Why this shift? Because I understand that engineers have this thinking mindset. They are able to think through problems, create solutions, etc. But the
yeah.
switch to finance isn't always obvious. Why did you make that switch?
There was no conscious choice, I would say. Uh, we are from an era where, of course, internet was not there, information was limited. And then, if you come from a small town, not many options, you are not even aware of, what career choices one may have. Somebody, you did well in your 10th or 12th, and then somebody suggested, go for engineering, and then engineering happened. That's how I think most people of our generation coming from small towns would have gone about their lives. In fact, from in our engineering college, most people would share that they didn't have anything else to do, and somebody just recommended to them. So that's how engineering happened. And then when we entered the engineering college, of course, we didn't know what MBA is, what CAT is, completely oblivious. And then when you meet people, you see the world, and then you decide what you want to do. In fact, I have a funny story. When I was completing my engineering, I never thought I'll get into business or I'll do MBA. I was very focused on doing GATE, which is for MTech. GATE was the qualifying. I think today also it's the qualifying exam for securing admissions into IITs for MTech. Yeah, so I was very clear that I want to do GATE, and I prepared for it. All my colleagues were preparing for CAT. I didn't prepare for CAT, and I was very focused that I want to do GATE and then get admissions into. There is a now it's called IIM Mumbai institution, and I was very focused that I have to get into that college. and I prepared hard. I got a All India rank, I think 5 in GATE,
Wow.
and then I was getting admission into my dream college, and then somehow I went to the campus of this college, and I just somehow decided that this is not for me. I took a drop year, prepared for CAT next year, and then got into MBA.
Wow. What
Yeah.
made you decide last minute? Was it intuition? Was it looking at what the studies really entail that made you back off?
Yeah, so maybe that was an era where career choices were not made on a very thought out basis, on a very scientific basis. Uh, Maybe when I visited the campus, I thought this is not the best choice for me, and instead I should do MBA. This course in IIM Mumbai was about industrial engineering. It was not MBA, it was industrial engineering. So I don't know, I can't really rationalize it now, but then very happy for the choices that I made that time.
And there's 1 year when you studied CAT, what did you do? Did you just study or
I worked with as a graduate engineering trainee
okay?
in SR Steel. So I'm working and preparing for CAT at the same time.
SR Steel doesn't exist anymore, right?
It does in a different name. Now it's ArcelorMittal.
ArcelorMittal.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. In fact, we worked with SR Steel while I was in ICICI Bank a lot as a lender, of course, from the other side.
How interesting. Do you have kids?
One
How
kid,
one?
17-year-old, and he is preparing for engineering. So, but he's very clear in his mind that he doesn't want to pursue engineering. He's more interested in pure maths. So
Wow.
maybe he has a mind of his own, which I didn't have that back then.
But
So let's see.
correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like most kids and even adults do not really know if you ask them what do you want to do, right? I think it's just it's the result of experiences at that particular point in time, interests, and kind of being given a choice of taking a left or right, but having to do something. And you either take a right or a left, but you got to keep on moving. And in so doing, you discover what you're good at, and as a result of discovering what you're good at, you build a passion because you're good at it. And hence it goes forward. Having gone through these experiences and life has changed so much, what advice do you give your 17-year-old son? I mean, do you just kind of say, look, you will discover what you like as you go ahead? Because the answers, I believe even we don't know, right? I'm sure you don't know what your next deals is going to be, but you're working towards pitching and seeing where it comes, etc. But what is your worldview?
So
What do you advise your son?
So, Harsh, I have a different view here. I think the current generation, and when I look at my son, the current generation is very, very focused. Whether they will eventually pursue what they want to do today, that time will tell. But they have very, very definitive views. Starting from that, I don't want to do engineering, I don't want to do applied science, I want to do pure science. They have a view, and they will be able to explain it. Why such a choice? We couldn't have done that time. And why this happens, I think, because they are far more aware and they are far more assured in life. They are really not thinking about building a safety net. They possibly to some extent because they have a base, but largely because of their own thinking. They are very, very assured. They're not building a safety net, and they are trying to build something. So very often I'm myself at a loss in terms of giving advice to these kids. You know, while I would have taken any advice from my parents at face value, and very thinking that I don't know myself, but they know what's best for me. These kids are not built that way. They would have done their research, and they have a very very definite path in mind.
But
And
worst
my
change so much.
only, yeah, my only, whenever I talk to my son, I only tell him that, try and become a good human being, and, keep your sensitivity, keep your, good side always, because we know that, they will do much better than what we have done in our careers. And that time, the only thing that will help them is to be a good human being.
That's amazing. Do you not think it's also that during that era, you did not have the safety net that you've given them? For instance, when I see my parents, they wanted to make sure that we had the education and the opportunities that they didn't get. And hence, in a way, we kind of standing on their shoulders and looking a little further because that safety net they've provided for us. Hence, our appetite for risk. Hence, our appetite for saying, okay, we want to do this. We're happy to fail at least. Ghar pani makan to hai. Do you think that also influences why your son is more assured, or why the middle class is assured because the parents were able to provide a certain safety net?
Again, I think I have a different view here. We Yes, in terms of resources, they have plenty, and we had scarce. Uh, but we never had the pressure of expectations. Nobody asked us, you have to do this, you have to do that. We didn't have social media. Our parents would have been happy even if we didn't study beyond graduation. But these days they are subject to so much of pressure. I see Vedant, my son, he's preparing for his entrance, and there is pressure from all quarters. It's almost, I always say, JE entrance. Guys who are preparing for IIT, they are playing almost something like a gladiator sport. You have the pressure of 140 crore Indians watching you. The newspaper headlines are screaming all the time, and they know that so much is expected out of them. And if they fail, it's not about getting 80%. It's about getting 99.5 and not 99.9. So those kind of expectations, it's really really difficult, even if the parents do not put pressure, and we are conscious in that way, but then the pressure comes from so many unexpected quarters. It's very very difficult to live up. And amidst all this, if you are able to keep sanity, hats off to them.
Well, different perspective. The pressure is definitely there. I try to insulate myself from the pressure by removing the noise, by not opening up to the unlimited flow. So because
Yeah.
the more you let into your brain, the more influence you get, etc. So focus is super important. But I hope Vedant does well, and he's doing math. So that's I know very few people who are good at math at that level. Well, let's come back to you.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Out of so Jharkhand, you know, made famous because of Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Surat, then you came to Gurgaon, then you went to Mumbai. You've lived all
Yes.
over the country. Favorite city? I mean, what do you feel like home is, because you seem to have spent time everywhere.
Yeah, Mumbai. Mumbai is the
Mumbai.
best, city. It gives you opportunities. It gives you, people of all kinds live here. You can live on a shoestring budget. You can live a lavish life. You can just be yourself. Uh, only
No
other city,
pretension.
yeah, only other
No
city
pretension.
which I think would probably, and I have not lived there, it's New York, which would probably, give me the same feel like Mumbai, but no other city like Mumbai.
So, which is the other city you mentioned?
New York.
New York. Yeah,
Yeah.
fast paced.
Yeah.
My trips back and forth from Mumbai, every time I would go and meet bankers over the last 17 years. Coming from Delhi, would be the people were number one, very professional, right? So they would always be on time.
Yeah.
Not to say that Delhi they're not, but they were more professional, more relaxed. I feel like there was less of an air of uh, shoshagiri, or arrogance, or whatever, what have you, because you can enter a train with a person with no money and a person who's probably a multi-millionaire, and you wouldn't know it. In fact,
Absolutely.
there's no pretense there, and it's a very interesting city which kind of merges, right? You can walk into a five-star hotel and step out and see poverty at a different level. So it's
Yeah.
definitely like New York. And
One example, if you go to a mid-range, retail outlet, for fashion, let's say in Mumbai versus Delhi. Sorry to have this opinion of Delhi, but please pardon me if you feel bad. So you go to a retail mid-range, not even high-end, not even luxury, mid-range outlet in Mumbai. You can just shop yourself, be yourself and shop. Nobody will come and bother you. You go to a similar shop in Delhi, and the guy, the customer service guy will come, you pick something, and then he or she will remind you, this is this much price. Do you still want to have it? So, what I'm saying is Mumbai is non-judgy. People don't judge nowhere. No place will
correct.
be judged. But Delhi could be very different.
Correct. I have also felt that vibe. I've also felt that vibe. Even though I'm from Delhi, a lot of people say I'm very South Delhi boy, but not like a South Delhi boy, which I didn't understand what they meant. But this basically, you
Yeah. Yeah.
people who'll drive the extravagance and show that they have money, whereas in Mumbai, you would never know. They're just so dressed down in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Okay, so after you did your masters, you worked with Crisil, and Crisil's, I believe, now is part of SNP, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yes.
how, and that was a couple of years. Is that where you really got into the research, got into understanding financials, balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flow statement? Is that where the grounding really started?
Yes, I think Crisil was a dream job at that point of time. Crisil started in 1994. They were doing cutting edge research on credit ratings, of course, was one side, and the second side was infrastructure advisory. And that was the era of project finance in India. Everybody was talking about non-recourse financing and structuring. There was a report by Mr. Rakesh Mohan on infrastructure financing, and everybody was thinking this is the next big thing to get into infrastructure financing. ICICI Bank was doing project finance, and Crisil was again doing a lot of work on project financing. So you learn a lot, and the best of the guys were joining Crisil to gain that grounding. So I have a interesting story here. While I was doing my MBA, like everybody else, very fascinated with project financing and non-recourse financing, and wanted to get into that area. And I was fortunate that I got a job with Crisil, so I did that. And then after Crisil, I spent about 1.5 years in Crisil, and then I joined ICICI Bank Project Finance. So from advisory, then got into lending, two projects, and these two jobs, made me, very happy. I thought I have found my dream job of project finance. But then, amongst other projects, I was working on Dabol Power Company. This was a project promoted by Enron Corporation, which later on went bankrupt from US.
Yeah.
So I was working on Dabol Power, and again, it was a prestigious project that time. So I started working on it in ICCI. And then Enron became stressed, and Dabul Power Company became stressed. And then I was transferred to another group within ICCI called SAMG, Special Assets Management Group. So this group was formed to work on stressed legacy NPAs, stressed assets of ICCI Bank, and to resolve them. So I was transferred from project finance department to SAMG along with Double Power Company, and I definitely resented the move that time. I thought I wanted to do project finance, and now here I am moving to a group to resolve stressed assets. So that time I resented it, But then maybe it was a blessing in disguise because I really love the deal making style of stress taxes resolution in SAMG, and got fantastic experience, worked with some really good set of people. And then I've stayed with deal making, first as part of ICCI and now here. So just love deal making.
Can you give us some insight on the special asset management group at that point in time, a deal which you had to do because of the stress nature of the transactions that you were dealing with, which you were sitting, I'm imagining a movie right now, right? You're sitting across the table and those guys are I'm assuming going bankrupt, and they have to make a deal. Give me a sense of how this plays out, or if you remember any transaction where you were able to make a deal on pennies to the dollar, and you said wow, and you were able to turn it around, and you think wow, the amount of value created, the amount of money created because of being in this particular situation is incredible, and you love the high of it, and you love the deal making nature of it, and you love how much you have to work to make it happen. Can you paint a picture? Is there any story which comes to mind?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, SAMG was a very unique experience. Now you have stressed asset investing as a separate form of investing. There are so many funds, EIFs, who specialize in special situations investing. And back then, what we were doing in ICCI was something very unique. So a crack team was formed called SAMG. And ICCI, that time the merger had just happened between ICCI and ICCI Bank. So ICCI Limited, which was the legacy institution, had a huge amount of stressed assets. And when it became a bank via reverse merger with ICICI Bank, then RBI had put in strict ratios, and they had mandated that the ratios, NPA ratios, have to be brought down to respectable limits. So therefore, there was a great deal of urgency, and that's why this team was formed. So
How many
so
people
many,
were there in
yeah.
the team?
I would think all over India, maybe around 200 people
Okay.
that time.
And the
And
NP levels were at what level, and what level did they have to be brought down to?
oh, I don't remember what, but I think it was more than 10-15% of
Wow.
NPA, gross NPA ratio, and it was brought down to that time. I would say at the end of 2005-6, till when Samji was fully moving. Uh, it was brought down to maybe around 4%, 3% to 4%. So a
Okay.
sharp reduction. And now, when you want to resolve a stressed asset, a stressed loan, uh, uh, of course, the company is in trouble, mainly because the owners have no money of their own to put into the company, right? So, in those situations, the best form of resolution is through M&A. So you could either capitalize the company or divest one part of the asset. You can get into a joint venture, invite a strong partner for part of the asset, or even in extreme cases, change of control, wherein you ask the existing promoter to go and sell the company to someone else who can do a better job. So this was a very most effective way to resolve NPAs. And that time we worked on several M&A transactions to turn around stressed assets. Some of them I could remember. One was Siscol, Southern Iron and Steel Company. It was promoted by LMW Group of Coimbatore. They had primary steel capacity. They became stressed, and the Coimbatore-based group didn't have money to put in. So we sold the company to JSW, and subsequently Syscall was merged into JSW, uh, and of course now doing very well. So that transaction happened. Even for Dabhol Power Company, of course, I mean, I couldn't have played a very significant role myself because it was a national problem at that moment of time. Government of India were involved, all the big financial institutions were involved as lenders. U.S. government was involved, but the resolution happened in 2004, I think, wherein a JV between NTPC and GAIL acquired shareholding from Enron, and from a foreign-owned company, it became a PSU owned by these two. The struggle for the bull still continued, but now at least it is doing well. Several other transactions, but some of the things which I would say resonates with me is one. It was deal making. Deal making every day. You are dealing with a situation almost on a daily basis. Number two is one good thing that if I'm a lender, I've got all the assets mortgaged to me, including maybe the personal assets of the owners. And then I can dictate terms as a lender. One would think, right, that the company runs into trouble. You call the guy, you give him a dressing down, and he'll listen to you, and he should be able to, turn around or bring some change. But it was easier said than done. It was, that time the legislations were very cumbersome. If you want to effect a change of control, the laws didn't support. Only now you have IBC, where there is a defined time frame. But that time we were dealing with the quagmire of legislations. So you just couldn't bulldoze your way with the owner, and you have to do a lot of relationships then to somehow work out a solution which is good for the bank, but also makes the promoter listen to you. In some form, you have to leave something for him on the table. So those situations where you had to bring all your deal making skills, into one area where, and you have to get all the stakeholders aligned, including the owner. So that kind of deal making was even more complex.
I can imagine. So India is infamous for the legal system and the delays. It continues. I know IBC was launched in the last 10 years, 10, 12 years, to speeden up the process. But correct me if I'm wrong, I believe IBC is still used as a pressure point to bring the promoter to the table and get him on to some sort of a resolution. And there are a lot of, whether we like it or not, founders, owners who would do something which is good for themselves but not the shareholders or the lenders, right? I mean, everybody wants to make the money and they don't really want to take everyone along for the ride. So has that changed? I mean, I'm sure you had to deal with cases where the promoter did not want to give up control. The promoter did not want to give up what he was liable for. He fought it in court and delayed the transactions. But one way or the other, you had to make it happen. I guess that's where the deal making came in. What is your view of the change in Indian businesses from the time that you started? Because it seems like, Samji was 2002. We're talking about 20, 25 years ago, and how things are now. Have you seen a shift, or do you think it's more of the same, except there's a little bit more pressure because of legislation?
So I think changes have definitely happened on a couple of fronts. One, IBC has been a game changer. Not, as you rightly said, it doesn't always succeed to effect the change that you want to. In a lot of cases, IBC has worked. SR Steel we discussed. The company was sold through IBC, something which I think otherwise may not have been possible. Without IBC, the same effect may not have come. But very often now, the owners and the businesses know that if they are lax, if they're not behaving, then the lenders have something called IBC which they can invoke, and which provides for a time-bound resolution. So that's a very, very potent thread. It works. So that's one. Second, I would say is the owners themselves are careful in terms of you know, previously the owners would say, I've got 10 rupees with me and I want to put up a project worth 200 rupees, 190 rupees, who will give me? You know, if a lender is giving it to me, let's just take it, let's implement the project, and then we will think how to service. So casual attitude were there. And they were providing, you know, all collaterals, personal guarantees without even thinking. Now that sanity check has come in, wherein the owners are very careful. They know that whatever they sign up today, they can be held accountable later on. So they are careful in terms of the debt that they want to take, in terms of the comfort that they want to give, and that has ensured that the projects which are coming up are safer compared to what it was before. Third, I would say, is the mindset change amongst the owners, wherein now I think they are less emotional about their businesses. You know, previously, owners would want to hold tight onto their companies, onto their projects forever, and they would almost think, you know, this is like another child, and how can I, you know, give it up? How can I let go of the control? But now owners have different businesses. They have, you know, varied interests. The next generation may or may not be really interested to continue working and developing the same business. And therefore, promoters are less emotional. So, if things do not go right, they are more willing to give up control, to let go, and to let the lenders and other stakeholders find a better solution. So all this put together, I think they are definitely helping in terms
So
of
NPAs, we still have some of the biggest NPAs, and records with a lot of promoters running away, etc. Um, has I mean, I'm sure IBC has improved things, but it's still not a level where this is not happening. I mean, this is also very recent events, right? With the Vijay Mallya and the Choksi and whatnot. It happened in the last decade only.
yeah.
So, do you think this is going to stop in another 10 years? You will not hear about cases like this at all because we've already gone through the grind?
No, it will always happen. I guess, you know, that's how is the nature. You know, you lend, lenders would be lending, you know, borrowers would be borrowing. Some would go right, some would go wrong. But at least I think that discipline is definitely coming. And you mentioned several cases like Malias and the frauds which have happened. They were all pertaining to, you know, maybe last 10, 15 years.
Correct.
But in terms of newer cases, you know, newer lending which have turned bad, I think that ratio is definitely coming down. So you
All
don't
right, let's
hear something, you know, where the banks would have lent in the last 10 years or last 5 years, you know, which have become this bad.
So after that, you moved to Russia. How was that? I mean, Russia has been in the news for all the wrong reasons. Do you still have friends there? And what was that experience like? Do you speak any Russian? Do you remember any of the phrases that you would definitely use on a daily basis?
Yeah, I know it's been long. I spent 3 years, 2005, 2008 in
Uh-huh.
Moscow. Of course, it was a very, very different, unique experience out of the world. Starting from language difficulties to whether the first year, when the first winter when we were there, temperature in Moscow was minus 38. So, you know, can't even imagine now. And of course, culture shock. You know, everything was very, very different. But Russia is an emerging economy, right? And that time, 2005, we were just coming out of the old regime, and there was huge amount of excitement in terms of growth and policies that they were following. So
Is that
ICCI had, yeah,
is that when Putin had just come in 2005?
no, 2000, I think 1999 he had come in.
2000.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
around
Okay.
2000. But you know, look and feel, you know, while the infrastructure was very modern, but it was like any other emerging economy, you know, just like India, I would say. Things were very different, but I really enjoyed my experience, and especially of setting the bank, talking to the regulator over there, policies, and understand the market. So everything was very unique. ICCI Bank had thought at that point of time that Russia operations could become very, very big, just like India, but that was not to be. But in terms of experience, amazing experience.
Yeah, what are the few things you remember still? What are the few things that you loved about the country?
Yeah, one is of course you people over there they love all things about India, so made some really really great friends, and in touch with them even today. Of course, we tried to do some M&A transactions in the Indo-Russian corridor. Didn't happen, especially because of the sanctions. But the people are good. Infrastructure is good. Somebody who loves traveling, be in Moscow, travel within Russia, and then travel to all over Europe. That could be quite fascinating. And I did pick up some Russian. In fact, that time I was able to converse
Oh,
easily. Yeah.
wow.
So, because otherwise you can't survive. You can survive in office, but outside you have to know the language. So all of us had undergone language courses in Moscow. So I was able to speak till about a few years back, but now lost touch.
So if you had to say, "Hi, I'm Anand," I run the corporate banking group for ICICI. How would you say that in Russian?
So I only now know, hi is Privyet, and good morning is Dobre Utra. Uh, wouldn't be able to translate exactly, what you said.
Okay. So after this experience of M&A, which you loved with Sam G, you actually did not still get into deal making, even though you set up the Russia operations for 3 years. After which you moved on to the corporate banking group, right, from 2008 to
Yes,
2013, where you
yes,
were a head for credit. You were still not doing deals, so you're
right.
already almost a decade out, still not doing deals, even though you love deal making. Why didn't you jump right into it? Was the opportunity not there?
Um, I think the place ICCI, does this to you. It's such a amazing environment to work in. Always something is happening. People are really charged up and difficult to move out of ICCI. When it's giving you so much of learning and experience. So as I said, Samji was very fulfilling. Then I moved to Russia, spent 3 years there till 2008. Came back. That time India was really shining, growing, and so many opportunities. So very happy to come back to India and spent 5 years in corporate banking. It covered South during that period as well. So came in contact with several South-based corporates, and then I took the plunge. I moved out of ICCI in 2013, into deal making. And initially, the idea was to do special situation M&A, which I did. And even after moving out of ICCI, I did some really, really good transactions. And now, last 4 years, we have this Lagrange Point Advisors.
So you were a partner and deputy MD at Singhi Advisors. I'm sure you work very closely with Mahesh Singhi, and I mean you were right at the top. Why move and start Lagrange Point Advisors when you were doing what you wanted to do?
Yeah. Again, possibly the entrepreneurial bug. You always want to create something from scratch, and then see, to what level you could take it to. Every founder would have a different vision. Nothing right or wrong, but they will have their own philosophies in terms of the kind of deals that they want to do, and therefore it was necessary for me to start. And I think COVID, like for so many people, you would have come across, Harsh, COVID provided that motivation. When you are sitting at home for a good part of, I think, 6 to 8 months, you think, what more worse can happen? and you find the right incentives, right motivation, and then you start. So for me also, it was around that period when I said I should start on my own.
Interesting. And so you became an entrepreneur at what age? At 2020, you were how old?
Yeah, so I was 47.
Okay. And how did it feel to be an entrepreneur versus working in entrepreneurial positions inside, big institutions?
I think the challenges are bigger. For one, you need to look after your cash flow very, very carefully, especially in the beginning, almost on a daily basis. Number two, I think you have bigger responsibility towards the team when you are on your own. So I think that's bigger. Number three is with every deal that you close or every good relationships that you crack, you are contributing somewhere to building a brand. So that's very very satisfying.
More satisfying than doing the deal with an ICICI?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because ICCI, you can do things at bigger scale, right? ICCI brand name is so, so, so good. You walk into a meeting and you'll be given attention. But here you have to literally start from scratch. Your ICCI background does not matter. What you bring to the table matters. Client would, out of deference, because they've known you for last, say, let's say 10, 15 years, they'll give you a meeting, but then that's where it stops. And you have to, and you're not really, lending to them or investing. You are offering your services, and therefore you really have to make a difference and convince them.
Tell me about the deal that you did. We're advising BLS International Services for 50 million, right? I believe it was an acquisition of iData. Can you walk me through how you got into the deal? Because at this stage, you're still selling yourself, your experience, decades of work in this field, your team, your vision. I read about what Lagrange point means. It's the unique point from which you have a different perspective on what the business should be. Um, Hence the name of the firm. So help me understand how this deal started, how you got involved, and why this deal happened.
Yeah. Lagrange point also means, this is a point in space where the gravitational pull exerted by two different heavenly bodies
Hmm.
cancel each other out. So you can remain in position, the space probe remain in position without consuming too much fuel. So it also provides a kind of balance, and it's a very very delicate point. So and of course, if we are there, we can observe what's happening from a vantage point and provide direction. So that was the genesis of the name. And at Lagrange point, we believe in, of course, deal making is transactional always. You move from transaction to transaction, but the idea is to establish relationship on a non-transactional basis. So we would like to work with our clients very very deeply. We With most of our clients, we would be ideating on a everyday basis across so many themes. Some deals may happen, some may not happen. More often than it will not happen. But then the idea is to keep discussing, have a good pace of discussion, and then along the way transactions would happen. It's not when we are engaging with the client, the obvious idea is not deal making. Obvious idea is to discuss, and then hopefully things would happen. So with BLS, we have a great relationship. We have done about 3 transactions with them so far, and in most of the transactions, we were given the look-in to work with them, but very often most of the transactions were ideated and generated by us. So we would look at a particular sector, a subsector where BLS could be interested in, do a thorough mapping, uh, do a short list, reach out to potential targets, and something will happen. Some transaction will happen. So iData was along a similar line, we were looking at visa processing companies for them worldwide. We looked at Europe, we looked at US, and then iData, interestingly, it's based in Turkey, and we didn't have any relationships in Turkey, so we didn't know how to reach out to potential targets, and that's where we tied up with PwC in Turkey. We entered into an arrangement with them where they knew the owner, and so we worked together on the buy side. They helped us to reach the target, and then we started working on it. And I think it took about a year's time, but again, a very very satisfying deal. I think the deal size was 80 million euro, and one of this company was the largest is the largest visa processing company in Turkey, and I think it's a very very good fit for BLS.
That's awesome. And that's a great, again, from what I understand, and this is across the industry, it's the relationships that you try to have for a lifetime. And as long as that company and that institution and the founder has trust in you and your abilities, and you go to them with good ideas, hence the three transactions, and it's not a one off. Of course, I'm
Yeah.
sure the one happen, but your objective is always to be extremely close with them, understand the business really, really well, and always add value. So that's a great transaction to happen. How was it working with PwC?
Great. I mean, of course, they are. PwC is actually the largest M&A advisory firm in Turkey. You have other big fours also, but PwC is the largest, and so their reach is great. And I'm really glad that we worked with them on this one, and we are now working with them on few other transactions as well.
That's awesome. So now you're the top 10 M&A advisor in India, right? I mean, within a
Yeah,
period of
last year we were ranked 8th in terms of number of deals, and I think number 13 in terms of value of deals for 2024. Yeah.
what's a good year in terms of number of deals?
I would say currently we are a 7-member team. We have office in Mumbai and an office in Bangalore, and we would be happy if we do around 5 to 6 transactions a year. And of course, the idea is to grow the team and then increase the number of deals. But these 5 to 6, most of them would be off-market transactions. They are not uh, uh, us participating in a tender process. Most of these transactions would be created together with the client. Very often, we'll go to clients with an idea and then try and take a mandate. So, in that sense, yeah, each of the transactions take a lot of time. Yeah.
And these are predominantly buy side or sell side?
Currently, I would say 70% of our mandates are on the buy side and 30% on the sell side. We are working a lot on joint ventures also. So currently, we are working with 2 US companies to help them to acquire companies in India, either controlled transaction or a joint venture. So good to see that we are finding traction with foreign companies also who want to set up operations in India, and a good mix of buy side, sell side, domestic, cross border transactions.
So for these 5, 6, are they predominantly domestic, or you see mostly cross-border transactions happening?
I think cross border quite a lot. Both incoming and outgoing from India. So we are working with Indian companies who want to acquire companies in Europe. We're working on that, and I told you, US companies, or like last year we worked on a transaction with EBP. This is a Swiss consulting company, around 300 million euro top line. We helped them to acquire a company in India, and this was their India entry vehicle. So that happened. So last year, I would say 2 cross border, 3 domestic, and currently this year also we should be doing around 2 cross border and an equal number of maybe 3 to 4 domestic.
How do you compete with the other M&A firms? I mean, I'm sure there's competition. Either you have relationships which you've built over the last 2, 3 decades, hence the trust which is already built, or do you still need to go and get clients? In which case you're competing with almost everyone. So what differentiates you, and how do you compete?
Yeah. So Harsh, I think what's happening in the Indian M&A, banking industry, I would say three broad trends which I'm observing. Number one, historically, if you see, when I was doing my MBA, M&A was the preserve of larger corporates. Only they will think of M&A. Only they could have the ability to make an acquisition and then manage them and integrate them. But what has happened in the last 10 years is two new categories of companies have joined M&A bandwagon. One is small and medium corporates. They are also equally keen to acquire, either to grow or to have strategic alignments. The second category is P-led company startups. They are also doing acquisition. They also want to grow, bolt on. So these are the two new corporate segments who are now engaging in M&A. Number one. Number two trend, as I mentioned to you, the promoters are becoming less emotional about their businesses. So they are very open to explore M&A, joint venture, inducting a partner, change of control, divestment. The next generation may or may not be interested. So they are becoming less emotional, and therefore, they are open to listen to ideas if you approach them and talk about a joint venture or even a divestment. 10 years back, most promoters would have taken it to heart, saying, "How can you even talk about me exiting?" So they are very open, and they want to look at M&A both buy side, sell side very, very openly. Third is, I still believe there is a serious dearth of capable, committed, and serious bankers in the country. I don't find uh, 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 guys who would want to pursue M&A on a dedicated basis. Most of the older M&A banking firms would now be getting into wealth or capital markets or other related areas, and there are still some others who would now, because there is so much of work, have a lot of restrictions on the kind of deals that they want to pursue. It could be in terms of thresholds, could be high, and that basically gives people like us a lot of opportunity to enter and do deals. As I mentioned, last year we did, I think, 4 or 5 transactions, and we were in top 10. So you can imagine there is a whole long list of bankers who may not be doing more than 1 or 2 transactions, right? So within 4 years to become within top 10 means that we are doing something right. And I think there are a lot of opportunities for everyone. Competition we do not face because, as I said, we are not really participating in a beauty parade where we are competing with three other bankers. These are mostly created situations where if the client likes your idea, then you are able to get mandates.
So you're actually being what a deal maker is meant to be, which is you go with ideas, you pitch them something that you've thought of, which is fresh, unique. It's not something which is out in the press and everyone's trying to grab that deal. And that's where the
Yeah, possibly yes, but also I think it's a lot of grunt work at the same time, and that's where if you are willing to put in the grunt work, lot of work for you. But if I want to sort of become a broker, then I just have to hope for things to happen.
how do you manage the stress? This seems like a very stressful job as well. Deal making is not a walk in the park. There are expectations, there are long hours. Investment banking is infamous for the 80-hour work weeks. You're building a team and trying to build an institution. You're leading from the front. How do you personally manage the stress?
For me, I would say. couple of things which I probably started last 10, 15 years. So one is started with marathons and now into long distance cycling. So
Wow.
I do that on Sundays, and that's the time for me to connect with nature, to test my physical endurance, and also reflect. I think that definitely helps. One day of cycling long distances helps you for rest of the week. So that's one. On weekdays, of course, you do strength exercises and some bit of cardio. But this weekly Sunday cycling really helps me. And second is meditation helps a lot. So I did 10-day Vipassana course uh, 10 years
Which
back in Igatpuri.
Dharamshala one or the
Igatpuri.
other one?
Igatpuri.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that I did, and that I think completely changed me as a person.
Did it?
Uh, yeah,
Wow.
everyone finds their own hack. For me, these two, and of course, coffee always helps.
How much coffee do you drink every day?
I would think 2 to 3 a day, 2 to 3
2 3 a day.
American. Yeah.
And when you say marathon, are you talking about running a marathon or are you talking about cycling marathon style? Like which
So
one are
I
you talking
did, I did couple of half marathons and I did one full marathon in the beginning. I think, I did that for 4 years from 12 to 16, 17.
about? Uh-huh.
And then, with as age catches up, you think go easy on the knees. And
Yeah.
I shifted to cycling. So now it's just cycling. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a colleague of mine from New York, Brooke, who was supposed to run the Boston Marathon. I didn't know that she ran so much. She's not doing this one, but she probably will do one in the future. So I find this kind of endurance, great for the mind, the body, but also for business. I feel like you are able to think, and I've got into the habit of having a cup of coffee in the morning and going for either half an hour or an hour and a half walk, putting on a podcast, whatever, because most of the thinking for the day happens there even when you're not thinking. I feel like when you step away from work, the problems that you are thinking about kind of like a detective come to the fore. I'm like, oh yaar, ye idea acha tha. Have you seen those movies where you're like, ये idea बहुत अच्छा था, ऐसे क्यों नहीं चला? Oh, that's the solution. And that's very, you got to put yourself in nature to be able to create that scenario in your mind. That's what I've found at least. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
last few days,
yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
And cycling has definitely helped me. So a year back, I thought of starting a series of writings which draw parallel between cycling and business and running your own business. And there's so many parallels. I did one piece on LinkedIn. I thought that time I had thought I'll do it regularly, but of course I have not come around to do it the second time. But there are so many parallels you can draw.
I will send you a photo after this podcast is over. I found this in a massage. Kind of my wife had gone for a massage, so it later posted. It had a cyclist on, and it said, life is like pedaling. Basically the message was you can't stop because the time you stop pedaling, you'll fall off. And same for business, right? You got to keep on pedaling, which I found to be a great metaphor. How do you define success? What does success mean for you at the end of your life? You look back and you're saying, yeah, I had a very successful career. What would make you say that?
Yeah, yeah. It's really difficult to tell how I would look back upon my life. When we are just about to finish our life at the last stage. I don't know that, but success to me has always been incremental. So coming from a rural background, semi-urban background, a middle class background, dreams have always been built incrementally. You move from one stage to the next, and then you look at the next stage. So initially, it was always about doing various studies, getting into good institutions, work with good institutions, and do quality work. That by itself was a huge dream. And now I think Lagrange Point Advisor is the dream. And here, for me, the success would be to build a great organization, which I would like it to operate at scale, and we should be able to provide custom solutions to unique challenges faced by corporates. So really, right now, next 10 years, maybe the success would be to build a great organization.
So, would it be fair for me to say that your definition of success has changed from when you started in CRISIL, then it became ICICI, then your stint with Singhi, and now Lagrange? And maybe in 10 years, you don't know what success means, but because of the incremental process, are you
Yes,
enjoying it?
absolutely. At one stage, yes, no complaints with how the life is shaped. But maybe, and we were talking about the younger generation, I think they would not think incrementally. They would have a much clearer idea of what future has in store for them, at least for the next 10 years, like we didn't have. So it for us it's fine, but I think one should dream big from the very beginning, if one can.
Health, wealth, relationship, purpose. How would you rank these in terms of priority?
I think relationship would be on top. Wealth would, it's a cliche, but would come the last. We all have what we need to have a decent living. More wouldn't make us happier. So wealth would come the last. I would say relationship, and health is important, but I've still not reached a stage where I give super importance to health. Kind of work always comes ahead, but work and health together, and then the wealth. Yeah.
And do you think deal making is going to stay the same in the next decade with AI coming in, or is it already changing?
Oh, it's already changing. Especially the kind of information, kind of analysis that we have at our disposal now is amazing. Previously 10 years back, we could have walked into a meeting uh, and then ask client a lot of questions, but now one doesn't have that luxury. One has to be thoroughly prepared. Client would expect you to know, for you to know much more than than himself about his industry, and that's the only way to move. And there are tools available. There are databases. There are so many service providers who reach out to us. They have AI solutions to track customer relationships, to track customer intelligence. So all that is changing, and there is no excuse to not knowing. You have to be super informed.
Is there a retirement age at deal making? It looks like the more you do, the better you get. So you might never retire. Do you think that's the case?
So there's a corporate joke. I don't know you've heard. It says, "What do you call someone who is happy on a Monday?"
What is it? What is the answer?
So the joke says, retired,
Oh,
but I would call them deal makers.
got it. But you answered the question. If you were not a deal maker, what profession would you have been in, or would you have liked to work in?
I guess growing up, you don't know you have certain talents, and because, as I mentioned in the beginning, you are busy building a safety net. Uh, but now, or maybe last 5, 6, 10 years, I think I could have become a good writer as well. Writing a novel is one goal which I would like to do someday. But yeah, if not banking, maybe to turn out a writer.
Tell me about how you meditate. Like, what's the meditation process that you use on a daily basis to de-stress?
Sure. So I talked about Vipassana. Vipassana, when you go there for 10 days, they switch you off. You do meditation day in, day out from morning 5:30 till 9, with some breaks in between. And I so it gave me a tool, to be able to meditate without listening to any music, without any chanting, without any religious angle. Because of those 10 days practice, you become a master, you know how to meditate. And then suddenly you realize that you have a tool which is within you, which you can invoke anytime you want. So, you may have good days, bad days. You can do meditation. I don't meditate on a daily basis. A lot of people do, like half an hour every day or 1 hour every day. I don't do that. But whenever it's a tight situation or stressful situation, then I take to meditation. So half an hour of meditation would help you a lot, would calm you down, and it's maybe it's not just about meditating, but knowing that you have a tool which can come in very handy in stressful situations. That's a big relief.
Got it. Very, very fascinating and interesting. Anand, I've enjoyed this conversation. You obviously love and enjoy what you do. The one thing, if I had to take from this, is the incremental nature of everything that you've done. I feel like, at least looking at how everything has progressed from Crisil to ICICI to Singhi, and now you being an entrepreneur. Uh, I think the ability to create value from the industry that you really loved back then, especially when you're doing deals, I think you've come home to what you really got attracted to, and that's very good to see. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.